Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GTHub podcast for what is a special for the 2019 or 2018 to 2019 ABBFI Formula E Championship. Well, we planned on having our, I suppose, resident expert, but that's stretching the English language a bit too much. So Rob's on here, but, probably better without him here for the most part. As he's off in a pub doing something.
Watching Spurs lose.
Yes, there you go. Watching his beloved team lose. So it's just me and Pigeon this week. And yes, that means intelligence should be prevailing here soon. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Well, when I say intelligence, I really mean you. Yeah.
Relative intelligence compared to Rob.
Well, that's not hard, really. So, yeah. Without further ado, we'll get started here with the lineups here, which sees a new team added to the roster of teams for next season. This season, which starts this weekend. But yeah. For reasons we'll get to later. Yeah, debatable. But we start with the newly formed team of HWA Race Lab, that being a skunk works operation for what we'll see Mercedes EQ involvement for Season 5, or Season 6 rather, in 2019-20. And that sees them use a customer Venturi drivetrain in the form of the Venturi VFE05. And, basically the whole team is new to Formula E. There's not a single... Well, actually, no, that's not true. There's one person that carries over, and that's behind the scenes in engineering. But other than that, everything's new for them. And that sees the form of Stoffel Van Dorn joining from McLaren F1.
Stoffel Van Dorn?
Or Stiffy Van Dormeers. Yeah.
I heard he was a Formula 1 driver this season.
He was.
He didn't look like he was going too fast, though.
No, he was a... I don't want to say failed F1 driver, but... Well...
He did. I mean, he was at McLaren for 2 years, so...
Yes, that's true.
He didn't have the best deal.
No, he did not have the best deal, but Mercedes threw him a lifeline, and he's driving for HWA this season in Formula E. With another Mercedes driver in the form of Gary Paffett to drive the number 17 car. And they will make... a pairing that is completely new to the series, alongside a test and reserve driver who also doesn't really have experience in Formula E, that being Daniel Juncadella. Or Dea, rather. Juncadella? Yeah.
Juncadella, yeah.
Juncadella, yeah. The Spanish Mercedes driver. So, not at all a Mercedes effort then, that seemed.
No. Totally not.
Totally not a Skunk Works Mercedes outfit, like I said. The HWA CEO of Ulrich Fritz will be team principal. And the carryover for with Formula E experience becomes in the form of Franco Chiocchetti, who was previously Lucas de Grassi's engineer at Audi. And he will be head of Formula E operations for them. And another, I think you can sense a pattern here, what I'm about to say, another Mercedes AMG appointee to the team. I know, comes in the form of engineer Tony Ross, who will work alongside Chiocchetti as chief race engineer. And he's also in position to be Stoffel Van Dorn's race engineer for the season. And Tony Ross is an important figure because he is the engineer for Nico Rosberg's championship winning season, I believe.
Oh, so the one where they swapped Hamilton and Rosberg's engineers, and everyone on Twitter went mental.
Maybe. Possibly. I can't possibly comment on that, yeah. But he is moving over to that organization to spearhead Mercedes' effort in the new series for next season when they come in. And you know it's a big deal because none other than Toto Wolff had confirmed his appointment there. So, yeah.
The big boy.
Yeah,
Big boy
the big
Toto.
Wolf. Big boy Toto, yeah. The superior Toto will be entering the season next year. Considering there's already a Wolf in the series, but yeah.
Wonder what's going to happen there with team orders.
Well, considering one's a Mercedes and one isn't a Mercedes, yeah, I don't think they have to worry about that one. Not that they'll be in the same half of the grid, methinks, but that's a different story entirely. Past that, we have, of course, starting of how they finished last season team standings, we have the poor unfortunate souls who bring up the bottom, or who brought up the bottom of the 2017-18 season, and that would be the newly rechristened BMW I Andretti Motorsports team, of which marks the first entry for BMW in the series. Sees the form of the BMW iFE18 of the name of Alexander Sims and 28 of Antonio Costa. Alexander Sims' seat coming at the expense of his sports car drives for BMW, which is quite a shame considering he did quite nicely for his outings in IMSA. Yeah.
Do we know who's replacing him yet?
I know BMW announced their lineups, but I remember who I think it might be Augusto Farfus? He recently retired to do race cars for BMW. He's replaced. Sure. Sims moves over to that, considering he was development means, and Antonio Felix. Well, not really a newbie to the series, considering he's been with Andretti for 3 seasons now, marking this season, and he's had 5 seasons overall. So he brings experience to the team, considering he was there last season while they were struggling. And although Sims does have experience because he's done 2 years of FE testing, like I mentioned, he's no slouch behind the wheel. They will continue to have Andretti Autosport team principal Roger Griffiths leading the team. BMW's chosen man for the team is Tim Malion, or Malion.
Something like that.
Tim Malion is his name.
Malion, maybe.
M-A-L-Y. Who is engineering spirited into the former Tichamble Hobson as their team, because this past they were semi behind the scenes. So this marks the first full entry for them, and in a very dynamic-looking livery for them. It's kind of a split going on where they have all the factory BMW cars doing for whatever reason. They like their asymmetric designs, BMW.
They don't like symmetry.
No, they very much don't like symmetry. They very much like having opposite sides, doing opposite things. Magna will be a partner, though, for them. And Magna, a big-time player in the auto industry, so they make various BMWs for the group already. So they are doing some form of powertrain work for them behind the scenes. So that should be something of note to watch. And now, mercifully, we break up the German stranglehold on the series briefly. To mention, well, there's no other way to put it, really. The disappointments of the series, really. That taking the form of the Geox, a dragon, dragon racing team. From the, that being the lesser Penske, their team principal there. Very much the lesser Penske. They can't even get their ducks in a row. They don't even have a livery organized yet. That's how they were testing.
Well, we know who to blame for that, don't we?
Well, Jay Penske's to blame for many things. But I think the livery might be because Sean Bull is boring and can't get his ducks in a row. But yeah.
Yes.
Here we are, Tuesday of race week, and they still don't have a livery on their. I don't understand that at all.
They're just going to turn with a white car.
But they want races, I guess. So one will be white and one will be red, probably. If there's anything to go by. But they have a new title sponsor in the form of Geox, which I believe is a apparel manufacturer. I think.
Yeah, shoe and clothing.
Yeah. So that's what they do.
It's like outdoor stuff.
I figured they just made fire suits and whatnot. So yeah, you know more than me. I thought Jay Penske got a sweet deal on some fire suits, so he's just like, "Hey, you want to be our sponsor?" They're like, "Sure."
Why not?
Why not? If it's free, we'll do it. Yeah. Considering he runs that whole team out of his pocket, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the Rolling Stone and all those other magazines that are on there, he owns them, yeah. But he has his own powertrain behind this car, the Penske EV3, trying to cashing off his famous last name without any of the performance. We also have a driver lineup that I don't know how it's going to fare. Because first off, I don't know who Maximilian Gunther. Absolutely have no idea who he is. But he's in the number 6 car. And in the number 7 car, we have, of course, the ever so likable. And when I say likable, I meant crashable. Jose Maria Lopez. Because, yeah. Who has the bet that he's going to... How far do we think into the race do you think he's going to get before he crashes? Because it's almost inevitable at this point.
Are we even thinking he's going to get to the race? I mean, he could crash
well, that's true. He could crash on the outlap of practice. That's very true. That's probably a better bet, actually. How far in practice does he get before he takes a wheel off the car?
Does he even make it through shakedown?
See, you're even more pessimistic than I am. You're like, he doesn't even make one lap of shakedown before he crashes. That's brilliant. Back, for whatever reason. I guess he's fast, but to be fast, you have to keep all 4 corners on the car, because that's kind of how that works. In many points throughout the season last year, he he had the pace to score some pretty good points and maybe even finish on the podium, but he drove like an idiot, basically, thinking he was in a touring car and crashed. Basically the same thing he does in his Toyota in the WEC, really. So, yeah.
Funny that.
Funny how that works. Yeah. Touring car driver in a high-powered car crashes.
Did you mention their test and reserve driver as well?
Now, funnily enough, I do know more about Antonio Fuoco than any of the other two. If only because he's a Ferrari driver, or
yeah, he's part of that Ferrari family thing, kind of.
Driver Academy for Ferrari. Yeah.
Yeah. Ferrari's attempt at copying Red Bull, and has
well,
somehow
you
managed to
say
make
that,
it
but
worse.
their driver academy is probably arguably much better, considering they have pedigree and Jules Bianchi and Charles Leclerc. Yeah. I think they had Arthur Peak at this point. One of the Peaks, I think. They had some Chinese driver there too, I think, as well, but I can't remember. Wasn't Ma Qinghua, though, that's for sure.
No.
Anyway, getting past my remembering Ferrari drivers. Yeah, he will be their test and reserve driver. He may be testing at Saudi Arabia coming up. That I'm not sure of because I don't remember who they have in the car for that.
I can look it up real quick.
Yeah, please do that. I think if it's not Foco, it's someone else. No, it wasn't Calderon. That was she was in the DS Cheetah. It's just Foco, actually. Use that one out. Team on the list. Actually, no, not onto the next team on the list. I haven't even gotten to the finish the drivers yet. Like I mentioned, Jose Maria Lopez stays. Maximilian Gunther joins. He may or may not bring his sponsor with him, which is BWT. So the car may or may not be pink. Who knows? Maybe that's what the livery is being held up on. But he comes into the team to replace Jerome D'Ambrosio, who is moving to a different team, which is probably better for him because he'll actually be in a shot to win racing. But technical staff behind the scenes sees former Williams and McLaren engineer Jakob Andreasen serving as a new race engineer for them. And a surprise move for them, actually a huge get for them, is the Motorsport team manager, Gary Holland, to be their team manager. They have the manpower behind the scenes to make their team work. It's just whether or not the electric motor and the drivers can bring the performance, because the team certainly isn't lacking, that's for sure. And next one on the list we have is the ever so brightly colored Neo Formula E team, which has gone through, I think, 5 liveries in the 5 seasons in its existence, seemingly. They have a new livery every single year.
At least they're trying.
I envy them for being different. You know, it's more than what can be said about most F1 teams. Really.
Williams.
They even had a Williams. Yeah, they even had a proper launch at the Olympic Park in London. So yeah, they think they're a Formula One team with their livery changes and their launches. So that's pretty good. That's one of the things F1 missing, the spectacular launches that are completely pointless but wonderful.
Yeah.
Getting back on point, the Neo Formula E team, which based themselves out of the UK, one of the only 2 teams to still be at Donington Park in the old Formula E offices. The other, of course, being the Andretti guys. And funnily enough, the Neo team took over the old Andretti team offices there, so it's quite funny. Come with a new powertrain, that being the Neo Sport 004. And we have a driver change there as well, because Luca Filippi has been dropped from the team this season. Unfortunately, too many inconsistent performances there from him.
That's being generous.
Well, I mean, that is being quite generous, because he's not a terrible driver. Most of the things that happened to him were mechanical, in fairness, so that wasn't quite his fault all the time. Points when he shouldn't have at Mexico City, so yeah. That was a massive oversight. I think from that point on, he kind of sealed his own fate there. But Tom Dillman takes his spot in the number 8 car, and he, of course, was already testing for them, and he had some outings last season, I believe, for... I think it was Mahindra, or... No, not Mahindra. It was Dragon.
Maybe.
But he had some outings last season, so he's not...
it was Venturi. It was Venturi.
It was Venturi, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because he was filling in for either Eduardo Mortada or Maro Engel, because, Mercedes drivers. So that's right, yeah. That's who he was filling in for. So he has experience in a car in the series before, so he should be quick and a decent package, because the Neos are constantly not at the front, but thereabouts, mid-pack. Fourth on back-ish. And Oliver Turvey is the second driver. He remains there in the number 16.
Of course.
So, of course, he's about the only consistency in that team, I think. Well, just looking over all the changes they've done, pretty much
Cars
all
changed.
changes. The cars changed, liveries changed, the names changed, yeah.
The only thing that stayed the same is where they're based, and Oliver Turvey.
Actually, I think that is actually the only thing that has stayed the same, yeah. Base is the only thing that's stayed since Season 1. That is the only consistent thing on the whole team, is where they are. Even that might change, though, because they're looking at moving, so
yeah.
The only consistent in the team is also going to change, so hey-ho. But Oliver Turvey stayed consistency there, and he tests with the car they provided, so we'll see how the Neos go. They should be thereabouts at the front. Team principal Jerry Hughes, long-time team principal for them, who took over that position after the sudden death of the team or the founder of Neo, will be on site at all races this season, but also will be having a new role in the company that will see him move away from the engineering into management, with the view of improving the technical and operational resources. So that's a bunch of gobbledygook for...
yeah, that's just management speak.
That's management speak for you're being moved up the food chain to make sure we're actually good. Yeah. It's all fine and well that you're an engineer, but you're a smart engineer, and you need to make sure we have other engineers who can make sure we have everything right, is what that means. And pretty much as a result of that, former Williams and Lotus F1 engineer Christian Silk has come aboard the team as their performance program racing director, whatever that title means.
A Williams engineer? They don't know anything about performance.
Well, it does say former Williams and Lotus F1 engineer.
Oh, okay, Lotus. Yeah. That's fair enough.
Yes.
We'll just stick with 2015.
In fair enough, doesn't say when he was part of Williams, so yeah.
Yeah, it could have been in the 90s.
It could have been when the Williams was good, yes. Then again, you wouldn't have to be that far away removed. You were before 2017, I think you're okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Even 2015, I'm not sure if the 2016 that good or not. Can't quite remember that car.
They got beaten by Force India, so
because Force India constantly punching above their weight. A car which is also no more, but that's a different thing entirely.
Yeah.
Well, it's only fair we keep dabbling back in Formula One, considering Formula One keeps trading off engineers and employees to Formula E. So yeah,
and drivers, as we'll get to,
and drivers apparently, yes, as we keep seeing. And now we move. Well, funnily enough, now that I mentioned that, it actually segues nicely into the Venturi Formula E effort, which actually sees many F1 and let's say F1 rejects, but well, you know, lovingly said, F1 castaways, perhaps. Literally in the shape of Susie Wolf being their team principal at Venturi, taking over the helm there since the summer. And the Monegasque team will campaign the factory Venturi VFE05 for themselves, and also, like I mentioned before, giving a customer chassis and, well, not customer chassis, customer powertrain to the HWA team, which may or may not be because, you know, HWA is Mercedes, and
Susie Wolf, Total Wolf.
Susie Wolf is, yes, married to one Mr. T. Wolf of Mercedes, yeah, so the boss of Mercedes AMG, so yeah, that may or may not be a nice, tidy package. They probably didn't even have to pay for it either. They just went, "Oh, we have a nice package here for you, sir." Yes.
Just please.
Oh, we hear you would like to, yeah. We would like to enter Formula E. Oh, well, we certainly have a nice discounted package for you here. Yes. Nicely wrapped in with a nice gigantic comedy Christmas bow, probably. Yeah. Thanks to Susie. But the high-profile signing here, other than Susie Wolf, well, actually, there's several high-profile signings here. I slightly feel sorry for Eduardo Mortara, who stays on this season with them. He's being overshadowed by quite some big names in this team. Of course, the race driver that was signed first before Mortara signed on again for them, that being the number 19 for one Mr. Felipe Massa. But what has he ever done, really?
No. Don't think he's ever been champion or anything.
Almost was an F1 champion, but other than that, what's he done? We have him signing on as...
You know what I want now? Now I want Timo Glock to join Formula E, just so that he can cost Massa another championship. Because that would be hilarious.
Are you sure he's not? He is a BMW driver, I will point out. He is a factory DTM BMW driver, so maybe he just might run into him in a test somewhere, just, you know, to complete the whole circle. Which would be quite funny. But he joins the team, and as I mentioned, Mortara stays for the season. And to shore up their engineering base for the team, they have Sebastian Buemis, a former engineer of Jeremy Colenson, who will be on Felipe Massa's car. It's his engineer. And their package should be fine for the season, considering they should have actually had their first win in the bag had, Carl Engel not decided to 4 laps ago in Hong Kong.
He decided the wall was more inviting.
Yeah, well, he should have actually just binned it. It would have been a lot more dignified, probably. So at least then he'd have an excuse as to why he lost the race. But he didn't, sadly. So, yeah, he threw away a win for Venturi. Probably why he's also not here for the season. But, yeah. because I think he actually was probably on balance the stronger of the two drivers. But I think,
definitely.
yeah, I think he decided I'd much rather like to earn more money being a GT3 driver. Thank you very much. So that's where he went.
Although I am pleased that Mortala's still there, because he is the reason behind my most ever viewed video on YouTube. So that's the only reason why.
Good news is they'll have two their lineup. Talent, nice for them. It's also nice just to see Simona Di Silvestro come back to a single season. Which, well, it's overdue, really. She needs to come home, really. I know she's having fun racing tin tops in Australia, but she's in the wrong continent. She needs to be in Europe or America. Quite frankly, she needs a fish. She's and starting in Saudi Arabia. But she's in Australia. Virgin Australia. Going to be one of the races, but she'll be at most of the races. Her scheduling committing, so they've had to go and get themselves another driver in the form of Norm, who is no slouch behind the wheel of a single-seater himself.
No.
He's also quite handy behind a sports car. Nearly got himself a title in the ELMS that he can add into his CV. So the Venturi guys, look for them in their silver and blue machines to be at the front or near the front. I won't say podiuming, but maybe they're
occasionally.
Occasionally. They might have the pace for a podium. It just, I think, depends on how fast Massa can get his way around, can get his head around the car. I think if it takes him a while, then it might be a struggle for them this season.
Because they're not easy things to just jump into.
They do take a bit of
because they are
warm
quite different to a Formula One car.
Yeah. But he does have hybrid experience, so that might play into his hands a bit. So he has somewhat experience on electronic gadgetry and cars and high lift and coast for systems and whatnot. So he might be okay. He's got enough testing, because I think he's been testing the car since June. So I think he might just be all right there. There we move on to a team that, well, basically is the underperformer for the entire season, I think, really.
Oh yeah, from last season, definitely.
From last season, they definitely underperformed, and that would be the Panasonic Jaguar guys, who changed nothing on their car driver lineup, so that's nice of them. They have the same teal-ish colors, I guess you could call it. Well, teal, blue, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dark teal.
Dark teal. Annoyingly similar to the HWA guys, so yeah, not be confusing at all. They both have dark bases with fluorescent highlights, so yeah, good job, designers who copied each other on that front. They keep things the same for their new Jaguar I-Type 3 for Nelson Piquet Jr. in the number 3, and the number 20 of Mitch Evans. The driver lineup is the same, so they have that going for them to give them consistency. Their engineering team is more or less the same. There's some shakeups to Piquet Jr.'s side of the garage, but that's kind of to be expected when you work with Nelson Piquet Jr. He's a bit of a handful at times, being diplomatic.
Not at all like his father.
No, not at all like his father, no.
That never happens in racing.
Him having a temper, no, never. Being temperamental about nothing, please. That's ridiculous. How dare you suggest such a thing? Piquet Jr. has some changes there behind the scenes. And other than that, we have them. The only real change is to the drivetrain, and that comes in the fact that it's all in-house. They brought everything in-house this season. It's all come home.
So there's no one to blame.
Yes. Well, it's no one to blame but themselves. But you know, yeah. this being Jag Electronics, something's bound to probably go wrong eventually.
I mean, it's a British engineering company and electricity. It doesn't go well.
What could possibly go wrong there? Yeah. With JLR's shoddy track record of engineering, yeah. What could possibly go wrong there?
I'm sure structurally it'll be fine, but electrically wise, no.
Well, all kidding aside, I have recently just been in their I-Pace, so I can say it's not bad.
I see how it is. Someone's getting all the brand deals.
Well, I say brand deals. It was more like they were just at an auto show when I happened to be on the thing. So yeah.
Fair enough.
I got a nice hat out of the deal as well, so you know.
Oh, blimey.
Want to call that a brand deal? Sure, okay. Getting back to the point, though. Speaking of Williams, because you know everything and every team in Formula E has to have some connection with Williams at some point.
Basically.
They've gone and done one better. They've actually just based themselves at Williams Advanced Engineering, really.
At least it's Williams Advanced Engineering, not Williams the F1 team.
Well, I'm not sure they would have enough room there for two mediocre programs. I mean, what?
I think that's very generous to call Williams F1 mediocre.
Well, I'm feeling generous today, so I'm giving them some credit. Yeah. I mean, in fairness, they did keep all their wheels on their cars, so you know.
It was close.
It's very close, but not that bad. They really need to win. Honestly, in this season, they need to win. This is the third season of their involvement. Everyone else is coming in. They have experience on their side. There's no excuse as to why they haven't won yet. Really,
I think of one excuse.
Is it Nelson Piquet Jr.?
It is.
I knew that's what you were thinking. I was like, is it Piquet Jr.? Yeah. He's quick, but if he can put his dramatics aside and actually bring some performance out of the car, they could get more than just podiums. Because we know they can podium. It's just the fact that they can't win yet. And they have to win. Because this comes off the basis that Jaguar Land Rover have increased their spend in electric racing, considering they just launched a whole support for Formula E with the I-Pace e-trophies. More on that later, because we'll mention briefly that.
Yeah, very briefly.
They have very briefly, because it's very brief. They have launched that, and they're supporting that wholeheartedly through their efforts. Because it's basically the underpinnings of the Formula E car in a SUV body. Yeah. But they have that going. They have massive spend going into this team and marketing, and they have to justify the spend, considering just come off a year of losses for the company as a whole. So help but wonder if this is a very much in the same situation they had with their F1 team, where they went, we're spending all this money and you're not really doing anything. Kind of situation. But I think their only reprieve might be the fact that it's a marketing exercise. So
yeah, I think this year they can do it.
They kind of have to, really. Yeah. At least get one win. Not multiple wins, but at least one. I think they need one to at least satisfy, for now, their efforts. Considering Mitch Evans was quite close several times this past season. The strategy wrong, and barely missing out a couple of times. These guys need a win, and yeah. Funnily enough, Mitch Evans is the one that's on the picture, so yeah, there we go. That's nicely rounded there. We'll move past the family here to go into yet another, I say new-ish, new in name. Yeah, there we'll go with that. Well, new in name only. New manufacturer, but really it's just new in name because it's still a Renault underneath. Probably not the worst thing. Well, actually, I don't even know if it is a Renault underneath, because I don't know if they kept the same motor package or whatever. So I don't actually know that.
Well, I presume it had to change, didn't it? Because everything's different.
It's true, yeah, because all the batteries and motors are more powerful. Yeah. So yeah, it is actually a Nissan. So never mind. On that front. The Nissan EDAM team, as they are known, TinyE.DAMS, yeah, because, fancy writing. It just sounds like a cheese to me, but yeah. We have the quite simply liveried black and silver car here. Of course, this being Nissan, it's the 22 and the 23, because it's obligatory that it has to be for their factory cars. And we have probably the story of the whole season, really, is this off-season, was the fact that we knew one of the drivers would be Sebastian Buemi, which already was interesting by the fact that, well, he races for Toyota in the WEC, which is a rival Japanese manufacturer, and, well, we know how Japanese manufacturers don't like sharing drivers, but somehow they got around that, so now he's both a Nissan and Toyota driver, somehow. Getting past that complexities there. The 23 was filled, and alongside him was originally supposed to be Alexander Albon, who was nicely presented in a nice press release that was all nice glossy, it had nice photos, and everyone was happy, and they said nice glowing things about him and about each other's partnership, and you're going, okay, well, that's great. It's not a bad get. He's a nice, talented driver to have on your team. That looked all fine, squared away. That was totally fine. We were going to have that lineup.
And then Toro Rosso came barging in.
Around Valencia, which was in October-ish, there was a very loud knock on the door of Nissan, I assume, and I actually don't know if they approached Nissan first so much. They just went to Albon first and said,
"You're coming with us.
We would like to steal you away from your Formula E gig." Oh, okay. Well, it's an F1 drive, and I said I could get out of my contract for an F1 drive. And thus began the legal wranglings of the contract, which saw the second car having to be tested by Sebastian Buemi on the first day of testing at Valencia, because Albon couldn't actually get in the car because of the contract being signed. Which is interesting, I think. So he wasn't in there, so Buemi was a poor, tired man and had to drive both cars.
I don't think he was complaining, though.
No, I think he was quite happy the fact that he could get all the input he could in both of the cars. But he was driving both cars on the first day for testing because Toro Rosso came calling for Albon, and he said, I'd like to go do F1 with Red Bull money, please. And they said, okay, fine. Imagine there was a very large check. A very large check for the team there. Sorry, I was just reading something. That ended up they had to scramble mid-test session, which isn't ideal for any team really. So they had to scramble, look around, and going, who can we get to be in our second car? Luckily enough, there was a man called Oliver Rowland there who just happened to have Formula E experience. And they said, you look like a good driver. Would you like to test your car? And he said, sure, I'd like to test your car. And they signed him to test. And then, wouldn't you know it, about 2 or 3 weeks later, their car for the full season. So, yeah. Long story short, that was the driver contract negotiations for Nissan, basically.
Yeah. Just one big mess.
Just one gigantic mess, of which Rob would be able to tell, because he mentions a very delightful story of having to ask the poor Nissan press people about their driver situation, to which they looked at them and said, don't mention the driver, please. We don't know any more than you do. Don't ask us. So that was quite interesting, I thought, with that one. However, we do have Nissan injecting some fresh talent into their lineups with the fact that Mitsunori Takaboshi is the Season 5 test and reserve driver for them. Okay. And I also believe he was the one doing the outings for the Nismo Festival, Fuji, the other week. Actually, no, I was wrong, because apparently, according to the release, it was actually on Martinborough. I did not know that. So there we go. I thought it was Takaboshi who did that, because Japan, but I guess not. But having mentioned Jan Martinborough, he will be their, almost fittingly, their simulator driver for that team. Yeah, he will be their simulator driver. And for those that don't know who Jan Martinborough is, he is the
he's the GT.
I'm sure you're all aware of who he is. He's the GT Academy driver who is quite talented and, well, all things considered, probably should have an F1 drive by now because he's that good.
Mm-hmm.
But all things being fair in the world, yeah, but we know they're not. So yeah.
Hello.
And that is the sound of Rob. Yeah.
Here we go.
Yep, here we go. Just about made it.
Yes. I was just mentioning, curiously enough, your stories about your interactions with the poor Nissan press officer at the Valencia test over the.
Oh gosh, I did feel sorry for her. Yeah, that was that was a pretty tough week actually for the Nissan Edams team, as I'm sure you and Pigeon have already mentioned, with what's happened regarding Alex Albon's contract for the upcoming season.
Yes, the interesting back and forth of contract dance. Yeah, we just covered that. Which actually, I think you mentioned seeing about 3 or 4 drivers lined up outside the Nissan garages at some point. Yeah.
There were a number of drivers in the paddock, although I think this may have been more to do with the rookie test at some point during the season, be it after Riyadh after. I think there's definitely going to be one after Mexico City, and I think there's another one after Marrakesh as well, from memory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be. So I think though the drivers there might have, because I saw Thomas Leroy, notably of Rebellion Racing, out in the paddock at Valencia, and he was eyeing up a test drive in the rookie test at some point. So yeah, it remains to be seen what comes of that. But yeah, it should be definitely quite interesting for sure. Yeah.
See, you would know. I wasn't actually sure, but the
I had to do
package for the Nissan that is completely new, right? It is an actual Nissan.
I'm not 100% sure on that. To be fair, I think it's still because of course the chassis is new for this year and all that, but the actual powertrain itself, I'm fairly sure is actually a bespoke Nissan powertrain.
Yes, because it's called the Nissan IM01. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see how they go, because of course they did lose about, well, effectively 2 days of running.
Oh, which the Chinese contingent. We have the Mahindra Racing efforts with the brilliantly liveried Mahindra cars. Always the best looking on the grid, quite possibly.
Yeah, it's no, their driver lineup's actually quite interesting, because it's changed a little bit from what was originally confirmed as well.
A little bit. It was a massive change.
Oh yeah, because they've brought in Jerome D'Ambrosio from Dragon Racing to drive one of their cars, and they've also brought in Pascal Wehrlein, and due to the fantastically complicated world of contractual law, Wehrlein's not actually at the opening round.
That would be because of him somehow not getting out of his Mercedes deal for some reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one Mr. Felix Rosenqvist is making a one-off return to Formula E for the opening round before Wehrlein takes over the drive from Marrakesh onwards.
And before he goes off to IndyCar.
Yeah. And potentially Daytona.
Yeah, he has sense, that boy.
Oh, please be at Daytona.
Yeah, I have heard rumours that Rosenqvist might be shoehorned into one of the armada of Ford GTs somewhere and somehow.
How exactly would that happen? Unless there's about 4. Well, I guess they could just bring all 4 of them, couldn't they? Yeah.
Just have a 10-driver team.
Yeah.
Everyone gets 2.4.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be the worst if he's going to bring an extra.
Yeah, so that's going to be pretty interesting. Definitely. I mean, the new Mahindra actually looked pretty quick in testing as well. I mean, I don't know if we already mentioned the fact that testing was actually held on a shorter version of the permanent circuit just outside of Valencia.
Because Valencia wasn't shit enough. Yeah.
Yes, it was also
also quite wet. Yes.
Yeah, very.
I think
Especially
quite wet is a bit of a misnomer there.
Formula E cars in the wet. I don't think that's ever happened before.
We've had wet practice sessions, and we had a semi-damp qualifying session at London a few years back, but we've never actually had a wet race, and it was absolutely teeming down all day on Thursday. to the point that a few of us in the press room decided to have a paper boat race down the pit lane. And yeah, we actually got some proper wet weather running in on Friday morning as well. But come the afternoon, the track had dried rather sufficiently indeed. But yeah, it was quite interesting to see the cars in the wet as well, seeing the rooster tails and the effects of the new aero.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned what, about 100 pounds downforce missing from the new cars?
About that, yes. It's because of the lack of a traditional rear wing on the back of the car, but theoretically overtaking should be easier. As it's been fairly easy in the past in Formula E, but now they...
Well, I mean, they have about like 5,000 different gimmicks to trouble, so...
Yeah, we got fan boost and we got the shiny new attack mode.
You have fan boost that's giving to 5 people now, apparently, and then you have attack mode, which I still can't wrap my head around.
It's funny you say that, because when I was in Valencia, I thought the attack mode detection was on the outside of the final corner due to the sheer number of people running wide there, but no, that was just because track limits.
That's how that thing works, though, doesn't it? Like, you have to be on the outside of the corner or something. Like,
you take a slower line through one corner.
Yeah, take a
straight.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. I don't think we've been told where it's the detection point's going to be for Riyadh yet, but and I don't think the teams are actually going to be finding out either until about an hour before the race.
Trying to find the most narrow corner,
yeah, to try and stop them from working this out during simulations. But yeah, that's going to be quite interesting to see how it plays out. Actually, I think.
I think they're trying to find the most narrowest of corners to subject to the passing zone to. Yeah.
There is actually a fairly twisty S-bendy section on that circuit in Riyadh, and I do think...
S-bendy, that's a bit rich, yeah.
Yeah, I do think there is going to be one line through there, really. So
like most Formula E tracks then, yeah.
I mean, in fairness, with tracks like Berlin, Tempelhof, I mean, okay, Tempelhof's a bit different because you've got such a wide open area to play with. Initially, it's going to be actually quite interesting to see what the overtaking's like as well in Saudi Arabia.
Still can't wrap my hand around the attack mode thing. They put out a nice video and everything, and I'm still just like, I don't understand it. Like, what is the point of this? I thought the most weirdest thing they could do was introduce fan boost, but apparently not. They've decided they need another gimmick because... And then they're going to have, interesting enough, they're going to have 3D augmented graphics on the TV broadcast or something to denote where the passing zone is or something.
I think so.
Because they're going to do that, like, that weird... You know how they had on the cameras, the onboard cameras, they had the cam with, like, it looked like a fighter kind of...
Oh, like fighter jet style heads-up display?
Yeah, that camera trick thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think that would make it easier for the fans watching on TV and on YouTube now as well, to denote where the detection and the attack mode zones are.
Yeah, that's kind of... It should be interesting to see how that looks, but that's the thing we're doing. So that's something. However, the Mahindras were looking nice and splendid in their black and orange and blue. We have next the very, very purple
purpley boys
Envision Virgin team.
Yes. They're also running customer powertrains from Audi as well for this year, which is going to be
Yeah.
very, very interesting indeed. Because if the Audi is as good as it was last year, once they'd fixed the inverter, that's going to get pretty tasty, I think.
I think the Audis might be okay. That bit, considering they won the teams championship last season, so
And that was a comeback and a half as well.
Yeah.
well, they finally realized, oh, hang on, we didn't tighten all the bolts, so yeah.
Yeah, that was quite
Put
something.
all their paperwork in a row. They kept doing that wrong.
Yeah.
Speak to your man. He said you probably can't till next week.
So, yeah, it's Sam Bird and Robin Freins driving for Virgin this season. I think Bird did the equivalent of Tottenham Hotspur a few years back in the Premier League and managed to finish third in a 2-horse race.
Of course. Because that makes perfect sense, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I'm not just saying that because we're currently losing by a 0-0 against Barcelona at the new camp, which is, in the grand scheme of things, not too bad. But then again, Messi's not playing, so...
Just to show that we are live, yeah.
Yes, yes, just to show that we are live, the football is on indoors.
Robin Frins is there, clearly not because he's there from Audi, which I thought was quite funny that he had to add.
Yes, he does have quite a lot of Formula E experience, though.
I do know that, but that I thought it was quite funny that he had to, when announced, say, "I'm not here because Audi put me here. I'm here because they wanted me here." Like, okay, well, why did you feel the need to say that?
And actually, another thing that was clear from testing in Valencia was that Sam and Robin do get on very, very well indeed already. There is quite a lot of banter between them.
Oh, that's always good then, yes.
Yes, some of it there's one particular moment from the press conference which I really can't actually mention.
Sounds quite lively then, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of putting it.
Yeah, that's how I'm putting it, so yes. What to say about them, really? They're a customer team now, so I wonder how that will affect them, really.
Well, I think Audi have already made it public that they're not going to be holding back in terms of when the software upgrades come out between the factory team and DS. Also, not DS Virgin, just Virgin now.
Slip of the tongue. That's a dollar there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, Croc. We've only had 3 years of calling them DS Virgin. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting to see how the customer manufacturer relationship works. I mean, it's not the first time Audi have run a customer program at such a high level, as if you actually go back far enough in the history of the American Le Mans series with the R8s.
Yes. Let's not go there because that may be quite a while before we come back on topic.
What us two talking about the American Le Mans series? No, never.
No, it's a terrible idea. Never do that. Yeah.
We have jokingly mentioned this as a bonus episode, so if you want to see us do a American Le Mans series special, which is probably just going to be Forza and I reminiscing about the good old days, do feel free to like this video. and buy some merch as well, please. Link to the merch in the description.
Oh, you were trying so hard. Yeah.
What, just for us to talk for ages about the American Le Mans series? God, cracking entertainment.
Anyway, getting back to electrified Audis. Yeah.
Yes, electrified Audis rather than powered by good old petroleum spirits.
Uh,
Cool, you know you want to do a special on that.
I'm just moving past everything you're saying. Yeah. Moving swiftly past the segues that he's trying to lay down unsuccessfully. Yeah. Pretty much everything behind the scenes of them is, I think, the same, more or less.
Well, Alex Ty's not running the show anymore. I think that's Sylvain Philippe now in charge.
Oh, interesting. I thought he was a package with DS, but I guess I was wrong there.
No, he is still at the team. It's just Alex Ty was the person who I think left. I think it was before New York at the end of last season.
Oh, right. Yes, you had mentioned that. Yes, that is correct. Yeah, Alex Ty is gone. Someone from BMW is in his place, which I find interesting. He used to run, or he is from Envision, the company themselves, so he's there now, doing whatever. But other than that management change, I think everything's pretty much standard on the personnel front.
Yeah, I believe that is the case.
But Sam Bird is always a perennial title favorite. Robin Friends, Audi factory driver.
Finally has a competitive car in Formula E.
Oh, that's also true. We'll see how it goes, really. Those two should be a strong lineup.
Yeah.
The only thing is, like Rob mentioned earlier, is if the Audis can hold together, then that's ultimately that's going to be the case of how they finish.
And I think the Audi will have learned from what happened in the early stages of last season as well. So I have quite a lot of confidence in them.
And speaking of the DS conglomerate, they are the next ones on our list here as we segue into what I think quite possibly is the best looking car on the grid. And that would be the DS Techeetah organization. That's hails from China. Well, I say China. It's more like they are based in France, but they're badged as Chinese.
Yeah. And I believe they're also the only team running their own brake-by-wire system as well. I believe all the other teams are running a standardized brake-by-wire system for the same company.
That might be true. I'm not sure. I don't know where the benefits of that lie in, so, yeah.
Then again, with having Andre Lotterer in their driver lineup and someone who has spent a lot of time developing brake-by-wire systems for the factory Audi and Porsche sports car teams, I do think that does play into their hands a bit.
Right. Yeah. That is true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I think they do have a bit of an advantage there, and of course, you got the other half of Gendre, which is
Gendre.
Yeah, which is of
Jev.
One Mr. Jean-Eric Verne, yes, Jev, the defending series champions. So yeah, I think Lotterer, Andre would have learnt from what happened last season and has kind of, I think, toned down some of the aggression we saw, notably in Santiago, Rome, and Paris. And I think both of them could be in with a shot at winning the title this year, I think.
My sneaky suspicion is that it might be Andre Lotterer, who wants another world's title to go in his cabinet. Yeah.
Yes, and those DS Cheetahs were quick as well in testing.
The DS E-Tense FE19s, yes. To give them their full name. Did they look actually as good as they look in pictures, in person?
How many words do you want my answer to be?
One word, please, and it can't be a swear. Yeah,
Very.
there we go. That'll work fine. Because I think they just look stunning in that gold. As someone has done something in the background.
Unless one can only presume something has happened in either the Liverpool versus Napoli match, or slightly less likely the Tottenham versus Barcelona match.
Yes, probably not good either.
I think that's the one thing we can guarantee.
Yeah, probably. These guys were title favorites for sure. I think the DS Tachita team for sure. Considering one of them's the defending champion, and they barely lost out on the team's championship. So yeah, and that was through a whole mess of errors that kind of wasn't their fault, really.
Mostly.
Mostly wasn't their fault. Yeah.
It mostly wasn't their fault. I think maybe Andre being a little bit too defensive in Paris might have cost them. Maybe.
It wasn't. It was a little bit of points. So yeah, it wasn't much that cost them the title. So every little mistake kind of hurt them there. But that's not bad considering they were a customer team while challenging for the title, and they were using customer Renault units and somehow showed up the Renault team themselves. So
yeah, that was definitely quite entertaining as well, and it was also interesting to see that actually how Tachita as a customer team had managed to get one up on the factory team.
I think that's probably because they had a better driver lineup, but yeah. In a formula that's quite heavily spec and you can do lots of development, I think having two good drivers in the lineup might be a bit helpful. Yeah.
Rather than 1.5?
Well, Nicola Prost isn't the worst driver. He's just probably not the most technical savvy, perhaps.
He's not an Andre Lotto, is he?
No, he's not a technical driver. He doesn't develop things so much as he can drive it quickly. And I think the problem there was the fact that the last season of their development of Renault's involvement in the series, they had to rely on Sebastian Buemi, and he didn't have anyone to bounce ideas off of, so that might have been the issue there.
Somewhat, yes.
And they kept complaining about tire issues as well, I seem to remember. Getting heat into the tires or something along those lines.
Could have been setup related, I would have thought, given that I think
Probably.
The front suspension is spec, whereas anything rear of the battery can be done to whatever the team wishes to do. So, and it's still the case with the Gen 2 car as well. The battery is still a spec unit, so but everything after that is do what you like.
Suspension-wise, you mean?
Yeah. Including the geometry and kinematics as well of the suspension, I believe.
Yeah.
As this has suddenly descended into engineering talk with Rob and Pigeon.
Well, I did say there was a warning of intelligence happening, so it's finally happened.
Yes. Yes, and the intelligence is not coming from me.
We also said that it was going to happen as well, so
yes,
it's nice that we've actually gotten something right for once. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh dear.
But they should be in with a shot and looking lovely, and they're also raising money for the Big Cat Sanctuary. Those in the UK know that show probably from the BBC or whatever.
Yep.
So the team has adopted Willow, that cub. So they're raising money for the Big Cat Sanctuary through merchandise sales. So there you go. Just another reason to like the gold card. Yeah.
Buy their merch, link in bio.
Link in bio.
Yes. If you want some really fantastic looking GTHub merch, then you can buy some also from the link in the bio. And below this video.
That was not pre-recorded at all. And finally, getting to the final team on our rundown here, and that was, of course, the somehow they became team champions again. No thanks to their own efforts to throw it all away.
And thanks to one of the most insane podium runs in series history.
Yes, this of course being the
Factory Audi.
Factory Audi Sports Abt Schaeffler team. With the most busy livery on the entire field, yeah.
Believe it or not, it does actually look pretty good in person.
I'm sure it does. It's just quite busy, yeah.
Yes, it's they've still got Lucas Degrassi and Daniel Abt, and well, both of those guys are going to be up for a title push this year.
I still think there's a weak link in that team.
I don't.
Oh, really? So you think it's okay that they have Daniel Abt? Yeah.
I was at Berlin this year when Abt won from pole and I believe set fastest lap as well.
Yes, but was that down to him or was that down to the car?
That was both, I think. I think Abt genuinely has the ability to put together a title challenge this year. See, because after what happened in GT2, he did lose. It hurt him a bit mentally, and I mean, we've all been watching the sport for long enough to know that the mental aspect is actually quite important as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it did have an impact on him. What had happened in GP2? So
I was going to say, you said GT2 earlier, and I got kind of confused. It's like, he's not that old, is he? Yeah.
Oh, it's still GP2 back when he was racing too, of course. So,
yeah, I still think I think that maybe he's coming into his own, but if I was Alan McNish, I'd have a different driver in that seat. It's not like Audi are spoiled for choice, really. They have other VAG companies to raid drivers off of.
Mirko Bortolotti? Penta's favourite? Actually, no, Penta would not be approving of that. I don't think.
No, I don't think. His fast hands are wasted in Formula E, really.
I'll tell you what, he is...
he's also a factory Lamborghini driver, so...
Yeah. He did also test for Ferrari at one point in Formula 1 and did do, when he was much younger, and did do rather well indeed.
I would say if I was going to replace Daniel Abt with someone, I think I would pick... Yes, Pigeon, obviously. No, you would be in the engineering role, obviously. Yes.
Oh. Can I not do both?
Stay in your lane, yeah.
What, Pigeon, our generation's equivalent of Dan Gurney, the late great Dan Gurney.
No, Rob, don't say that. Engineer. That is blasphemy.
And now you've ruined it. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I don't know who I'd replace him with. That's probably the problem. Yeah. I can't think of anyone who's not tied up in a current program, considering Porsche are making their own programs. So,
Alonso.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Wait.
And funny you say that, because Porsche did have a Formula E car at their Night of Champions.
You mean a white car with some stickers on it? Yeah.
And rumours that they're going to be confirming a driver within the next just over a week, I think. So that's going
Brendan Hartley. Brendan Hartley.
Yes. yes, Brendan Hartley. Brendan Hartley, yes, indeed.
And if it's not Brendan Hartley, I will be pleasantly shocked, actually.
Neil Yarny.
Well, I say pleasantly shocked. I will actually just be horrendously shocked. Because that would be the second bad news he's received in so many weeks, yeah.
Oh, dear. But, yeah, I do think Audi have a very, very good chance.
Yeah.
Again this year. I mean, you can't count them out in this series. So
It's a new car, so you never know.
It's a new chassis, yes. Powertrain, the teams are still developing, apart from the battery.
Yes, that's a new bit there, but
And also, you never know. HWA might do a Mercedes and just dominate.
no,
Get
Rob.
1-2 every single race.
Pigeon. You mean this is Mercedes? Yeah.
In all
If
references,
it
the man
sounds
in
like
charge.
Mercedes and it looks like a Mercedes, it's a Mercedes.
Yes, it just
If
has
you have
more.
the driver lineups of Stoffel Van Dorn and Gary Pappett, and the engineer who used to work on the F1 side.
Yeah. Although, having said that, it was the HWA was not very Mercedes-like in testing. It was more McLaren-like.
Well, in fairness, that was their first time they were on track.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
It was the first time they'd really been on track as well. So we'll let them off for the for the reliability.
So, who are your picks for the title? You're going with whom?
Who are you guys going with?
Okay, then. Just don't answer the question.
I was asking you first, Rob, but okay, since you want to be skipped over, I guess you'll go last.
Yes.
Are we doing teams and drivers?
Yes.
Okay. I think for team, I'm going to go to Cheetah. And drivers, I'm going to go with Sam Bird.
Ooh.
I think this is his year.
Pick. That is a hard one because there are lots of stacked teams this year. So I'm gonna say BS to Cheetah for the team's title. And the driver's title is I'm gonna go Andre Lauder.
Ooh.
Right. Just to be different and controversial, I'm going to go Audi Sport at Scheffler for team's title.
Well, that's not really going out on a limb, but go on, yeah.
And for driver's title, one of the two BMW drivers, maybe Da Costa, just edging it
so
slightly.
you're gonna have the team go to Audi, but the driver championship won by BMW.
I do think that the pace BMW had shown in testing was fairly representative, given that they topped one session.
I'd love for Da Costa to win it, but I can't see it happening.
Then again, BMW do have, with the best will in the world, quite a lot more resources now at hand than what Andretti did last year.
Yeah, that is fair.
That is
true. They have an awful lot more to play with, so I do think that the pace BMW showed in testing is going to be near enough to what it is in real life. But then again, Jaguar looked pretty darn quick indeed over the longer runs.
As I mentioned
as well.
to Pigeon earlier, they have to win, really. That's the mandate at this point.
I do think that Jaguar are going to get a win, but I think it's going to be Evans getting the win rather than.
Oh yeah.
Oddly enough, we're in agreement again. Yeah.
Wait, what? Us three in agreement? What the fuck's happening? Jeez. And on that note, I'm going to head back indoors now because it is pretty nippy out here.
Yes, well, we were about
the second half started.
About to head off anyway, so in a minute anyway.
Okay, so I'll just stay on then.
Yes.
Head back inside the pub. So.
Yes, we will catch you in a minute here, Rob. But on that note, since we've ran down things, our support series, as mentioned, is the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophies, which, having seen one of them in person, quite nice.
Ooh, get you.
Yeah, I know. Ooh, get me, yeah. in fairness, it wasn't actually a full like spec one. It was the display one, but still looked pretty cool. It was also painted in the lovely, and this is actually also why I'm only going to mention it, the lovely RLL colors for Catherine Lake, Brian Sellers. So, yeah. It's pretty cool. And that's going to be running in support for that before the Formula E race, and that has about 11, 12 cars, I think.
On the website it says 20, but I don't know if that's
I
accurate.
don't know if that's accurate, yeah, because I think I'd seen something where it said 11 or 12 for
Okay.
I was going to say Dubai. Saudi Arabia, ugh. And on that note, me forgetting geography, yeah. Since there's nothing else to mention, thanks for listening, guys, and we will see you next week with something. I don't know what yet, but we'll see you next week with something. Maybe, possibly, yeah. But it's bye for now, yeah.
Bye.